The cake cost $400. It was a three-tier vanilla sponge with strawberry filling, covered in pastel blue fondant because we were having a boy. I remember staring at the icing, tracing the letters that spelled out "Welcome Baby Liam," and feeling a cold sweat trickling down my spine that had nothing to do with the summer heat. 50 people were crammed into our backyard. My mother-in-law was already drunk on mimosas, laughing that high-pitched laugh that usually grated on my nerves. But today I didn't mind, because I knew something she didn't. I knew that in exactly 3 minutes, this entire perfect suburban picture was going to burn to the ground. My wife, Sarah, was sitting on her glorious mommy-to-be throne, surrounded by a mountain of gifts. She looked radiant, glowing. She was rubbing her belly, telling her best friend about how Liam kicks just like his daddy. I gripped my glass of iced tea so hard I thought it might shatter. His daddy. I checked my watch. 2 p.m. Right on cue, the gate to the backyard creaked open. The chatter didn't stop immediately. It rippled away, silence spreading from the back of the yard to the front, like a wave pulling back before a tsunami. Sarah looked up, a smile still plastered on her face. Then she saw him. Her face didn't just pale, it went gray. It was the look of a ghost seeing an exorcist. The man walking in wasn't invited. He was wearing a grease-stained mechanic shirt, holding a crumpled envelope in one hand and a microphone in the other. I had hired him to bring the microphone. "Sarah," the man said, his voice shaking, "you didn't tell me we were having a party." The glass finally slipped from my hand and shattered on the patio. "Welcome," I said, my voice dead calm in the silence. "Everyone, please meet the guest of honor." But before I tell you how Sarah screamed or how the police ended up being called, we have to go back. We have to go back to the moment I became the happiest fool on the planet. 6 months earlier, my life was perfect, or at least the Instagram version of it was. I'm an architect. I build things. I look for structural integrity. I make sure foundations are solid so houses don't collapse. Ideally, you'd think that skill set would transfer to my marriage. It didn't. Sarah and I had been married for 3 years. She was a pharmaceutical rep, charming, beautiful, the kind of woman who could sell ice to a polar bear. And she had sold me the dream of a lifetime. We had been trying for a baby for a year with no luck. Negative test after negative test. It was heartbreaking. I remember nights finding her crying in the bathroom, holding those little plastic sticks like they were cursed objects. I would hold her, stroking her hair, telling her, "It's okay, babe. We have time. We'll make it happen." Then came the trip to Miami. She had a conference. I couldn't go because I had a deadline on a commercial project in Chicago. We were apart for 5 days. When she came back, she was different. Affectionate, hyper-energetic. She brought me a souvenir t-shirt and jumped my bones the second she walked through the door. I thought she just missed me. 3 weeks later, I came home to find a gift box on the kitchen counter. Inside was a positive pregnancy test and a tiny pair of Nike sneakers. I fell to my knees. I'm a grown man, 6'2", 200 pounds, and I bawled like a baby. I hugged her legs, burying my face in her stomach. "We did it," she whispered, her hands in my hair. "We finally did it." I looked up at her, wiping tears from my eyes. "I'm going to give this kid the world, Sarah, I promise you." She smiled down at me, but looking back now, with the clarity of rage, I realized the smile didn't reach her eyes. The first 3 months of the pregnancy were a blur of doctor appointments and nursery painting. I was obsessed. I was reading every book, buying the safest car seat, researching college funds. But then, the architect in me kicked in. I was sitting in my office late one Tuesday, looking at our shared calendar to schedule the next ultrasound. I was counting back the weeks. Week 12. Okay. Week 8. Conception date. I paused. My cursor hovered over the dates. According to the ultrasound dating scan we had just done, the baby was conceived between the 14th and the 16th of that month. I checked my work calendar. I was in Chicago on the 14th, 15th, and 16th. I frowned. I pulled up my flight receipts. Departed 13th, returned 17th. We hadn't had sex in the 3 days before I left because she was stressed about packing for her Miami trip. A cold knot formed in my stomach. I tried to shake it off. I told myself I was being paranoid. Sperm can live for 5 days, right? I Googled it frantically. Yes, up to 5 days. Okay, so maybe it happened right before I left. It was a stretch, but it was possible. I went downstairs. Sarah was on the couch, eating pickles and watching reality TV. "Hey, babe," I asked, trying to sound casual. "The doctor said you're exactly 12 weeks along today, right?" "Yeah," she said, not looking away from the TV. "Why?" "Nothing, just the math is weird. That puts conception right when I was in Chicago." She froze. Just for a second. The hand holding the pickle stopped halfway to her mouth. Then she laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Oh my God, Mark, you and your spreadsheets. Ultrasounds aren't exact science, they're estimates. Plus, biology is weird." She turned to me, her eyes wide and innocent. "Are you seriously doing the math on our miracle baby?" I felt like a jerk immediately. No, of course not. I'm sorry. If you've ever let someone gaslight you because you wanted to believe the lie more than the truth, hit that subscribe button right now. Let me know I'm not the only one. I kissed her forehead and went to bed. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and once it's planted, it grows. 2 weeks passed. The doubt was a quiet hum in the background, easily ignored when we were picking out names. Then came the night of the storm. It was 2 a.m. Thunder was rattling the windows. I woke up because I was thirsty. Sarah was asleep next to me, breathing heavily. Her phone was on the nightstand on her side. Bzzzt. The screen lit up the dark room for a split second. I froze. Who was texting a pregnant woman at 2 a.m.? I carefully, slowly reached over her body. I knew her passcode. It was our anniversary, 10/14. I picked up the phone. The message was on the lock screen. It wasn't from her mom. It wasn't from her boss. It was from a number saved as spam risk. The message read, "Does he know yet? I need to see you." My heart stopped. The world tilted on its axis. Spam risk doesn't ask if he knows. Spam risk doesn't need to see you. I stared at that text message for what felt like an hour, but it was probably only 10 seconds. Does he know yet? My thumb hovered over the camera icon. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the phone on her face. I took a photo of the screen using my own phone. Then I carefully, agonizingly slowly, placed her phone back on the nightstand exactly how I found it. I laid back down in the dark. Have you ever tried to sleep next to someone who you suspect has just destroyed your life? It's physically painful. Her body heat, which used to be comforting, now felt like radiation. Every time she shifted in her sleep, I flinched. I stared at the ceiling fan spinning in the shadows, round and round, just like my thoughts. Who is he? Is the baby mine? Was the Miami trip a lie? Is our entire marriage a lie? I didn't sleep, not a wink. I watched the sun come up, turning the room from gray to orange. And when Sarah's alarm went off at 7 a.m., I did the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I rolled over, kissed her on the cheek, and said, "Good morning, beautiful. How's the baby?" I deserve an Academy Award for that performance, truly, because inside I was screaming. I wanted to shake her. I wanted to throw the phone at the wall. But the architect in me took over. You don't demolish a building until you've surveyed the structure. You don't strike until you know exactly where the weak points are. I needed proof. Irrefutable, concrete proof. I waited until she was in the shower. I grabbed my laptop and logged into our cell phone provider's account. We shared a family plan. Mistake number 1, Sarah. I pulled up the call logs for the last month. There it was, the number associated with spam risk. It wasn't spam. It was a Miami area code, 305. She had been texting this number constantly, morning, noon, and night. There were calls too, 20 minutes here, an hour there, mostly when I was at the gym or commuting from work. I copied the number into a reverse lookup site. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Search. Loading. Result. Kyle, last name redacted. Occupation, mechanic. Location, Miami, FL. I pulled up Facebook. I typed in the name. And there he was. Kyle was, well, he was everything I wasn't. He was younger, rough around the edges. Photos of him working on vintage cars, drinking beer on boats, fishing. He looked fun. He looked reckless. I scrolled back to the dates of Sarah's conference in Miami. And then I saw it. He hadn't posted a photo of her. He wasn't that stupid. But he had posted a photo of dinner. 2 plates, 2 glasses of wine. And in the corner of the frame, resting on the table, was a very distinct rose gold clutch purse. My wife's purse. I bought it for her last Christmas. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The air left my lungs. It wasn't just a fling. They went on dates. This was an affair. If you've ever found something online that made you wish you didn't have internet access, leave a comment saying, "I know the feeling." It's a special kind of hell. But knowing about the
I went to work, but I couldn't focus. I was staring at blueprints, but all I could see was that rose gold purse. Around noon, I remembered something. Sarah had an old iPad she used for reading recipes in the kitchen. She rarely updated it, but it was logged into her Apple ID. And sometimes, just sometimes, the iMessage sync lags or keeps messages that were deleted on the phone. I left work early. I drove home, praying she wasn't there. Her car was gone. I ran into the kitchen, grabbed the iPad from the stand, and swiped it open. Passcode 1014. It unlocked. I opened iMessage. It updated. Ping, ping, ping. The thread with spam risk, Kyle, populated. I scrolled back. My hands were sweating so much the screen was getting slippery. I scrolled back to the week after she returned from Miami. And there it was. The conversation that ended my marriage and started my war. Kyle, I miss you. When are you telling him you're leaving? Sarah, I can't yet. Not right now. Kyle, why? You said you were unhappy. Sarah, I am. But I just took a test. I'm pregnant. Kyle, wait, is it mine? Sarah, Mark was in Chicago the whole week I was fertile. It has to be yours. But I can't leave him now, Kyle. He makes good money. He has insurance. If I leave now, I'm a single mom with nothing. I need to secure the bag first. I read that sentence 3 times. I need to secure the bag first. I wasn't a husband. I wasn't a partner. I was a wallet. I was an insurance policy. I was a safety net for another man's child. She was planning to pass this baby off as mine, let me raise it, let me pay for everything. And then, what? Leave me in 5 years? Or stay and let me live a lie forever? I put the iPad down on the counter. I didn't cry this time. The sadness was gone. It had evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard block of ice in the center of my chest. She wanted to play games? She wanted to secure the bag? Okay, I'll give her a bag. A bag full of consequences. Most people would have confronted her right then. They would have printed the texts, thrown them in her face, and kicked her out. But I'm an architect. I don't just knock things down. I plan the demolition. If I confronted her now, she'd cry. She'd blame hormones. She'd say she was confused. She'd maybe even convince a court that I was unstable. No, I needed to destroy her reputation so thoroughly that she could never spin the narrative. I needed witnesses. I needed a stage. I looked at the calendar on the fridge. August 12th, baby shower. 3 weeks away. It was perfect. Her entire family would be there, her friends, her coworkers, all the people she had lied to. But I needed one more piece to make the puzzle complete. I looked at the iPad again. I looked at Kyle's number. In the texts, Kyle seemed desperate. He seemed like he genuinely liked her. And crucially, he seemed to believe her when she said she couldn't leave yet. He didn't know he was the side piece. He thought he was the Romeo to her Juliet. He didn't know she was using him for sperm and me for money. I wondered, what would Kyle do if he knew the truth? I picked up my burner phone, an old Android I kept for site testing, and I dialed the 305 number. It rang twice. Hello? A rough voice. Sounds like he's in a garage, air tools whirring in the background. Is this Kyle? I asked. Yeah? Who's this? This is Mark, Sarah's husband. Silence. Dead silence on the line. Don't hang up, I said quickly. I'm not calling to fight you. I'm calling.
A job offer? Kyle sounded confused. He was probably expecting me to threaten to kill him. Listen to me carefully, Kyle, I said. She told you she's leaving me, right? She told you the baby is yours. Look, man, I don't want no trouble. She told you I was abusive or that I was distant? She said you guys were basically roommates, Kyle muttered. Right, I laughed, a dark, dry laugh. Well, roommate just bought her a $60,000 SUV for the baby, and roommate is currently planning a baby shower for your son. I let that sink in. She's not leaving me, Kyle. She's setting me up to pay for your kid. She's using you for the DNA and me for the ATM. Once the baby is born, do you think she's going to let you see him? You're a loose end. I could hear his breathing change. It was getting faster. I want to meet my son, he whispered. And you will, I promised. I'm going to fly you out here, first class. I'm going to put you up in a hotel, and I'm going to pay you $5,000. For what? To attend a party, I said, watching the sunlight glint off the kitchen knives. I need you to deliver a special message. Do we have a deal? There was a long pause. Tell me where and when, Kyle said. I hung up. The trap was set. Now, I just had to survive 3 weeks of playing the happy, clueless father-to-be without vomiting every time she touched me. The next 20 days were a masterclass in psychological torture. If you think finding out your wife is cheating is hard, try living with her while pretending you don't know. It's like sleeping with a grenade under your pillow, waiting for the pin to slip. I had to play the part of the doting father. I rubbed her feet. I went on late-night ice cream runs. I attended birthing classes and practiced breathing exercises, staring at the back of her head and imagining all the things I wanted to say. But the worst part wasn't the pretending. It was the greed. Now that she thought she had secured the bag, Sarah ramped up her spending to levels I had never seen before. It was like she was trying to liquidate my assets before the baby arrived. One night, over dinner, takeout sushi that cost $80 because she had a craving, she dropped her chopsticks. "Babe," she said, giving me those big, manipulative doe eyes. I was thinking, for a push present, I really want that diamond tennis bracelet we saw at Tiffany's. I took a sip of water to wash down the bile rising in my throat. The $4,000 one? I asked, calmly. Yeah, I mean, I'm pushing a human being out of me for you. Don't you think I deserve a little sparkle? For me. She was pushing a human out for me. The audacity was breathtaking. Of course, honey, I said, forcing a smile that felt like it was cracking my face. I'll go get it tomorrow. You deserve the best. I saw the triumph in her eyes. She thought she had me wrapped around her little finger. She didn't know I was buying that bracelet on a credit card that was joint linked to her account, not mine. I was building a debt mountain that we would be climbing together in divorce court. If you've ever had to spend money on someone you knew was betraying you just to keep the peace, hit
3 days before the shower, Sarah's mother, Linda, arrived. Now suddenly, everything made sense. Linda was a 3-time divorcee who treated husbands like disposable income sources. She walked into our house and immediately started marking her territory. Mark, the guest room mattress is too firm. You need to buy a topper. Mark, why isn't the lawn mowed? The party is in 3 days. Mark, Sarah needs rest. Stop asking her questions. I became a servant in my own home, but I kept my mouth shut. I needed Linda there. I needed her front row and center when the truth came out. I wanted her to see exactly what her parenting had created. On the Friday night before the party, I overheard them in the kitchen. I was in the hallway putting away laundry. "So, is he going to get you the nanny?" Linda asked, her voice low. "He says it's too expensive," Sarah complained, "but I'll work on him. He feels guilty about working so much. I can use that." "Good," Linda said. "You need to make sure everything is in your name, Sarah, just in case. You never know with men." "Don't worry, Mom. I've got him handled. He's obsessed with this baby. He's not going anywhere." I stood in the hallway, clutching a basket of towels, shaking with rage. He's obsessed with this baby. She was right. I was obsessed, but not with the baby. I was obsessed with the justice I was about to serve. Saturday morning, the day before the shower. I was at Home Depot, ostensibly buying patio lights for the party. In reality, I was in the parking lot, taking a call on the burner phone. "I'm at the airport," Kyle said. "Good. The Uber is waiting for you. It'll take you to the motel on the edge of town. Do not leave the room. Do not post on social media. Do not call her." "I got it, man," Kyle said. He sounded nervous. "You sure about this? What if she freaks out?" "She will freak out, Kyle. That's the point. But remember the deal. You walk in, you say exactly what we rehearsed, and you get the check. And you get to meet your son eventually. If you back out now, you get nothing, and she keeps your kid away from you forever." "I'm not backing out," he said, his voice hardening. "I want to see her face when she sees me." "You will," I said. "Rest up. Showtime is 2 p.m. tomorrow." I hung up and threw the burner phone into a trash can outside the Home Depot. I walked back inside, bought the lights, and whistled a tune. It was the first time I had felt genuinely happy in weeks. Sunday, the day of the baby shower. The sun came up hot and bright. It was a perfect summer day, the kind of day you see in commercials for lemonade. I woke up at 6 a.m. Sarah was still sleeping. I looked at her one last time as my wife. By the end of the day, she would be my adversary. I went downstairs and started setting up. I dragged the PA system out to the patio. I hooked up the microphone. I tested the volume. Check, check, 1, 2. It was loud, perfect. Everyone in the neighborhood would hear what was about to happen. I arranged the chairs, I set up the gift table, I put the "Welcome Baby Liam" banner up. By noon, the caterers arrived. The guests started trickling in at 1 p.m. Sarah came down at 1:15 p.m. She looked stunning in a white floral maternity dress. She had that pregnancy glow that everyone talks about. She walked up to me and kissed me on the cheek. "You did a great job, babe. It looks beautiful." "It does," I said, looking her dead in the eyes. "It's going to be a day to remember." She didn't notice the coldness in my voice. She was too busy looking at the pile of gifts. "Oh, look! The Millers brought the stroller I wanted." She waddled off to greet them, squealing with delight. I stood by the drinks cooler, watching the backyard fill up. Friends, family, neighbors, about 50 people. All of them smiling, all of them congratulating me. "You must be so excited, Mark. Bet you can't wait to be a dad. He's gonna look just like you." That one stung. "He's going to look just like you." I smiled and nodded. "Yeah, can't wait." The party was in full swing. Linda was holding court near the cake, holding a mimosa. Sarah was opening cards. I checked my phone. One text from an unknown number. "I'm outside." My heart hammered a rhythm against my ribs. Thump, 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 thump. I texted back. "Wait for the signal. When I drop the glass, you come in." I put my phone in my pocket. I grabbed a glass of iced tea. My hand was steady now. The nerves were gone. I was in the zone. This was structural demolition. You don't get nervous when you push the plunger. You just watch the building fall. I walked toward the center of the patio. "Attention! Attention, everyone!" I shouted, waving my hand. The music lowered. The chatter died down. 50 faces turned to look at me. Sarah smiled from her chair, expecting a toast. She probably thought I was going to gush about how much I loved her. "I just want to say thank you all for coming," I started, my voice projecting clearly. "It means the world to us. We have so many people here who love Sarah and who love the baby." "Aw," the crowd cooed. "And," I continued, "and we actually have a surprise guest. Someone who traveled a very long way to be here today. Someone who has a very special connection to this child." Sarah frowned. She looked confused. She looked at her mom. Linda shrugged. I looked at the gate. I looked at Sarah. I raised my glass of iced tea high in the air. And I let it go. Smash! The sound of glass breaking on the patio stones was sharper than a gunshot. Heads turned. Sunday, the day of the baby shower. The sun came up hot and bright. It was a perfect summer day, the kind of day you see in commercials for lemonade. I woke up at 6 a.m. Sarah was still sleeping. I looked at her one last time as my wife. By the end of the day, she would be my adversary. I went downstairs and started setting up. I dragged the PA system out to the patio. I hooked up the microphone. I tested the volume. Check, check, 1, 2. It was loud, perfect. Everyone in the neighborhood would hear what was about to happen. I arranged the chairs, I set up the gift table, I put the Welcome Baby Liam banner up. By noon, the caterers arrived. The guests started trickling in at 1 p.m. Sarah came down at 1:15 p.m. She looked stunning in a white floral maternity dress. She had that pregnancy glow that everyone talks about. She walked up to me and kissed me on the cheek. "You did a great job, babe. It looks beautiful." "It does," I said, looking her dead in the eyes. "It's going to be a day to remember." She didn't notice the coldness in my voice. She was too busy looking at the pile of gifts. "Oh, look! The Millers brought the stroller I wanted." She waddled off to greet them, squealing with delight. I stood by the drinks cooler, watching the backyard fill up. Friends, family, neighbors, about 50 people. All of them smiling, all of them congratulating me. "You must be so excited, Mark. Bet you can't wait to be a dad. He's gonna look just like you." That one stung. He's going to look just like you." I smiled and nodded. "Yeah, can't wait." The party was in full swing. Linda was holding court near the cake, holding a mimosa. Sarah was opening cards. I checked my phone. One text from an unknown number. "I'm outside." My heart hammered a rhythm against my ribs. Thump, 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 thump. I texted back, "Wait for the signal. When I drop the glass, you come in." I put my phone in my pocket. I grabbed a glass of iced tea. My hand was steady now. The nerves were gone. I was in the zone. This was structural demolition. You don't get nervous when you push the plunger. You just watch the building fall. I walked toward the center of the patio. "Attention! Attention, everyone!" I shouted, waving my hand. The music lowered. The chatter died down. 50 faces turned to look at me. Sarah smiled from her chair, expecting a toast. She probably thought I was going to gush about how much I loved her. "I just want to say thank you all for coming," I started, my voice projecting clearly. "It means the world to us. We have so many people here who love Sarah and who love the baby." "Aw," the crowd cooed. "And," I continued, "and we actually have a surprise guest. Someone who traveled a very long way to be here today. Someone who has a very special connection to this child." Sarah frowned. She looked confused. She looked at her mom. Linda shrugged. I looked at the gate. I looked at Sarah. I raised my glass of iced tea high in the air. And I let it go. Smash! The sound of glass breaking on the patio stones was sharper than a gunshot. Heads turned. The silence in the backyard was absolute. You couldn't hear a bird chirp. You couldn't hear the wind. All you could hear was the hum of the amplifier and the sound of 50 people holding their breath. Kyle stood there, looking out of place in his grease-stained shirt amidst the pastel balloons and designer handbags. He looked at Sarah. He looked hurt. Sarah was frozen. Her mouth was opening and closing like a fish on a dock, but no sound was coming out. Then the dam broke. "Who is that?" Sarah's aunt whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. Sarah stood up, knocking her gift chair over. "Get out!" she shrieked. It wasn't her normal voice. It was a primal, terrified scream. "I don't know who you are! Mark! Mark, get this psycho out of here!" She looked at me, her eyes pleading, desperate for me to play my role, desperate for the dumb husband to save her one last time. I didn't move. I didn't step forward. I just leaned back against the patio pillar and crossed my arms. "I don't think he's a psycho, Sarah," I said into the silence. "I think he's the guest of honor." Linda, my mother-in-law, marched up to Kyle. She was 5'0" but fueled by Chardonnay and entitlement. "I'm calling the police. You are trespassing. Get away from my daughter." Kyle didn't back down. He raised the microphone I had paid for him to bring. "I'm not trespassing," Kyle said, his voice booming through the speakers, echoing off the neighbors' houses. "I'm just here to see the mother of my child." The gasp from the crowd sucked the air out of the yard. "Liar!" Sarah screamed. She was hysterical now, tears streaming down her face, ruining her makeup. "He's stalking me! Mark, please, he's lying!" She was good, I'll give her that. For a second, I saw doubt on the faces of our friends. They looked at the dirty mechanic, then at the pregnant woman crying, and their instincts were shifting. They were about to step in to protect her. I couldn't let that happen. "He's not lying, Sarah," I said, stepping forward. I reached into my jacket pocket. I pulled out a stack of papers, high-resolution color prints. "I have something for everyone," I announced, my voice calm, cold, and lethal. I walked over to the first table, Sarah's college friends, and dropped a stack of papers.
I walked to the next table, her aunts and uncles, and dropped another stack. "What is this?" someone asked. "Just a little light reading," I said. "Page 1 is the call log showing 3 hours of calls a day to Kyle during our marriage. Page 2 is the flight manifest proving I was in Chicago when this baby was made. And page 3, I turned to look at Linda. She was holding a paper, her hands trembling. "Page 3 is my favorite," I said. I grabbed the second microphone from the stand. "Sarah," I read aloud, quoting the text on the page. "I can't leave him yet. He makes good money. I need to secure the bag first." I looked up. The backyard was a sea of horrified faces. "I am the bag," I said, gesturing to myself, "and the bag is closed." If you think cheating is bad, but plotting to trap a man for 18 years of child support is purely evil, smash that like button. Sarah collapsed back into her chair, sobbing into her hands. But it wasn't the sobbing of a victim. It was the sobbing of a child who got caught stealing from the cookie jar. Linda threw the papers on the ground. "This is illegal. You hacked her phone. I'll sue you for everything you have." "Sue me," I laughed. It felt amazing to laugh in her face. "Please, take this into a courtroom. I beg you. Let a judge read these texts. But before you do that, Linda, you might want to check the credit card you used to book your flight here." Linda froze. "I canceled it this morning," I said. "And the supplementary card Sarah uses? Canceled. The joint checking account? Empty. I moved my half to a private account an hour ago." Sarah looked up, her eyes black with mascara and hatred. The mask was fully off now. There was no more sweet wife. There was only the cornered predator. "You bastard," she hissed. "I'm pregnant. You can't do this to a pregnant woman. The stress. You're hurting the baby." "No," Kyle interrupted. He stepped closer, looking at her with disgust. "You're hurting the baby. You treated him like a paycheck." Kyle looked at me. He gave me a short nod, a nod of respect. He turned back to Sarah. "I don't want your money, Sarah, but I'm filing for paternity rights tomorrow. You're not keeping my son away from me." He dropped the mic, literally. It made a loud thud on the grass. Kyle turned around and walked out the gate. He didn't look back. He was the coolest guy in the world in that moment. Now it was just me, Sarah, Linda, and 40 guests who wished they were invisible. Mark, Sarah's dad, a good man who had been quiet the whole time, stood up. He looked broken. He looked at his daughter, then at the papers, then at me. "Mark, is this true?" he asked softly. "Every word, Jim," I said. "I'm sorry you had to find out like this, but I couldn't let her trap me." Jim nodded slowly. He walked over to Sarah. I thought he was going to hug her. Instead, he picked up her purse. "Come on," Jim said. "We're leaving." "Dad," Sarah cried, "he's kicking me out. This is my house." "Actually," I interjected, "I bought this house 2 years before we met. It's in my name. The prenup? Remember that little piece of paper you hated signing? Says that in the event of infidelity, you get nothing of the premarital assets." I checked my watch. 2:45 p.m. "You have 30 minutes to pack a bag," I said. "After that, I'm changing the locks. Anything you leave behind, I'll have delivered to your mother's house. COD." "You can't be serious," Linda shrieked. "She is in no condition to move." "Then you better start packing for her, Linda," I said, pointing to the door. Tick-tock. The guests started scrambling. It was like a fire drill. People were grabbing their purses, leaving half-eaten cake, averting their eyes as they shuffled past me. "Sorry, Mark. Call me if you need anything, man. I had no idea." I stood there like a statue until the last guest was gone. Jim dragged a weeping Sarah toward the house to pack. Linda followed, screaming obscenities at me. I stood alone in the backyard. The welcome baby Liam banner fluttered in the breeze. The $400 cake was melting in the sun. I walked over to the cake. I took my finger, swiped a huge chunk of blue icing, and tasted it. It was delicious. It tasted like freedom. But the war wasn't over. Sarah wasn't going to go quietly, and
The silence after they left was heavy, but it wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. I spent the next 3 hours throwing every single baby shower gift into the back of my truck. The stroller, the diapers, the clothes. I donated it all to a women's shelter the next morning. At least someone honest would get to use them. But Sarah wasn't done. 2 days later, my lawyer called me laughing. "Mark, you're not going to believe this," he said. "She's trying to contest the prenup. She's claiming emotional distress caused by the public humiliation at the party. She wants the house. She wants alimony." I leaned back in my chair at work. Let her try. We went to mediation 6 weeks later. Sarah waddled in, looking miserable, flanked by a cheap lawyer her mom probably paid for. She wouldn't look at me. Her lawyer started blustering about cruelty and abandonment of a pregnant woman. My lawyer let him finish. Then he slid a single document across the table. "What is this?" Sarah asked, picking it up. "It's a lawsuit," I said quietly, "for fraud." See, in my state, if you can prove paternity fraud, that someone knowingly deceived you into spending money on a child that isn't yours, you can sue for damages. "I kept the receipts, Sarah," I told her. "The IVF treatments we tried, the prenatal vitamins, the agonizingly expensive organic food, the $400 cake, the trip to Miami where you conceived him." I leaned forward. I tallied it up. "You owe me $27,000, and since we're still legally married, half of your 401k is mine. If you sign the divorce papers today and walk away with nothing, I'll drop the fraud suit. If you fight me for the house, I will bankrupt you before the baby is even born." She looked at the paper. She looked at her lawyer. Her lawyer closed his folder. He knew when he was beat. She signed. The divorce was finalized 2 days after Liam was born. I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't send flowers. I heard through mutual friends that Kyle was there. And here's the twist I didn't see coming. Kyle actually stepped up. Maybe it was the shock of the baby shower, or maybe he just wanted to be a better man than she expected. He fought for 50-50 custody. He's in that kid's life. Sarah is living with her mother, Linda, the two of them in a small apartment driving each other crazy. From what I hear, Sarah is miserable. She's working an entry-level sales job because her reputation in the pharma industry tanked after word got out about what she did. Securing the bag didn't work out. She fumbled the bag, then she set the bag on fire. As for me, I took a sledgehammer to the nursery. Literally. I spent a weekend demolishing the pastel blue walls. I ripped up the carpet. I tore down the crown molding. It was the most therapeutic physical labor I've ever done. I turned that room into a home gym. Every morning, I go in there, I lift heavy weights, and I look at the mirror where the crib used to be. I don't see a victim in that mirror anymore. I see a survivor. People ask me if I regret doing it that way. They ask, "Mark, wasn't that harsh, embarrassing her in front of everyone?" And I tell them this: evil thrives in the dark. Liars rely on your politeness. They rely on you wanting to keep the peace so they can keep their secrets. She was going to let me raise another man's child. She was going to let me bond with that boy, love him, pay for his college, and maybe one day, 10 years down the line, rip the rug out from under me. That is not just lying. That is theft. That is stealing a man's life. So no, I don't regret it. I regret the $400 on the cake, but the look on her face when Kyle walked through that gate, that was priceless. I'm dating again now.
A nice woman. She's honest. On our third date, I told her everything. She didn't run. She just held my hand and said she didn't deserve you. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. If you are watching this and you have a gut feeling that something is off in your relationship, listen to it. Check the phone bill, check the dates, do the math. Because the truth might hurt you for a moment, but a lie will kill you for a lifetime. I'd rather be lonely with the truth than married to a lie. Thanks for watching. If you think justice was served, smash that like button until it breaks. And comment below. Would you have exposed her at the party or just left quietly? I read every single comment. Subscribe for more